Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Isaiah and today I thought I would do something a little more lighthearted just because I've been super not the past few days and I have noticed a tendency on YouTube that when people do story times they tend to be very dramatic and negative, especially negative towards high school experiences. Which, on the one hand, I understand. It's the idea of being hashtag relatable to them youths, of which I am no longer a youth. I am very close to a midlife crisis, according to my age. Um, and it's also just like negativity tends to garner more eyes than positivity. That's why you have hacks like the Nostalgia Critic that still exist to this day for some reason. But I was thinking about the fact that I was a military kid before the start of my life. I mean, technically, I've always been a military kid, but there's the military kid that goes from place to place every couple of years, new school, new friends, new country, who dis. And then you have military kids whose parents are in the military, but they don't move around or anything. And for the first 6, 7 years of my life, it was more of the former than the latter. So it meant that I actually started school on an Air Force base in Naha, Japan. Naha is I guess it's the capital of Okinawa. I don't know why my brain just went blank on if it's the capital or just like a major city. But Okinawa actually has an interesting history because it has constantly been taken over by Japan or China. It's currently in Japan, and I think it's there to stay for a long time. It is part of a group of islands called the Ryukyu Islands, and it has been a major point of trade for between China and Japan in the past. At one point, China and Japan both claimed to have the Ryukyu Islands under their control. It is also interesting because some of the fashion choices that come from there are actually inspired by the Americans that are hosted there by the military. So, Hawaiian style shirts are extremely popular. Does this have anything to do with why I love Hawaiian shirts? No, it just happens to be a fantastic coincidence. Um, but I started school there on Kinzer Base. I then moved back to the States for second grade, and that's also when we moved to Alabama. And I kind of lived there until I graduated high school, though I went from a couple of cities and then different houses because my family apparently couldn't stay in one house for more than 3 years. Go figure. Um, but I remember when I moved to Lake Town, not its real name, I met several people that were fascinated with the fact that I was born in Japan. There was this one girl, Georgia is what I'll call her, very similar to her actual name, but not her actual name. Georgia was, oh, she was so gullible. It was every stereotype come true. She was blonde, she was very pretty, she was dumb as a brick, and she was just the sweetest person. Um, if you remember the white rich girl from Princess and the Frog by Disney, that was kind of like her personality, but less boy crazy. And she heard that I had lived in Japan for a while. So one day she comes up to me, this is fifth grade, and she's like, Isaiah, were you born in Japan? You kind of have the eyes. And I was like, no, I was born in Maryland. I went to school there, but I wasn't born there. Also, why would me being born on that island when I have two white parents give me the eye folds that marks kind of if you have East Asian genetics? And she's like, "Oh, okay." and she left. Um, but because I moved to Lake Town before there was a whole lot of splitting up of the cliques, I then saw her in sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade. And every year, for some reason, she would just forget. And Georgia would come up to me and be like, Isaiah, were you born in Japan? And it's like, Georgia, we've gone over this. No, I was born in Maryland. I'm white. And oh, God bless her soul. But she's a very kind-hearted person. I am not going to say in past tense. I don't know how she is currently or what's going on with her, because while I was kind of a chameleon kid and could move from group to group, I wasn't particularly close with her, because the preppy girls that I tended to hang out with were from my church more so than just in general. But I did see her again when she took my AP history class. And it was a great class. We didn't really go through a whole lot of time. And I have to say that in all of my high school history and most of my middle school history, we never really got up to World War One. So we would like cover the Civil War over and over again, but we would never like actually go into modern history. My first taste of it wasn't until I took a contemporary arts and issues class in college. After I was supposed to graduate like 5 years previous. But she was in my AP history class, and it was a great class. Everyone got along really well. And towards the end of the year, there was an announcement. We could take a trip to DC if we could afford it. And my parents decided that they would send me. So it ended up being a group of like 20 kids and a couple of teachers, I believe. Um, both of the history teachers, the AP history teacher and the regular history teacher, but it was only the AP students that went. And there were some fantastic things that happened then, because I've been to DC a couple times before, mostly with the robotics team, but this was my first time to not have to do anything. And I can't remember if this was with the robotics team or someone or with this group, but there was one time we ate at this strange little restaurant that had like the Mrs. Robinson sort, not a poster, but like a screenshot, but it wasn't Mrs. Robinson because it was a hairy leg. And it took me a very long time to realize it was a gay joint. I'm starting to think this was with the robotics group, because there was also rumors that the teacher sponsor was gay, and I think those were completely unfounded. But you know how teenagers are. They're idiots. We're idiots. My entire group was a bunch of idiots. And will latch onto anything as proof that something is different about someone else. But with this trip, I most distinctly remember are two separate events. First, completely random, we managed to convince some poor random tourist at the Air and Space Museum that our AP history teacher was actually our adopted father of like these 20 kids, and he went with it. And the second thing is why I brought up Georgia again. And we were doing a haunted tour at night in just this older part of DC. It was super cool. I was walking a little ahead so I could actually hear, because even back then I had terrible hearing issues. And I could hear Georgia and the teacher talking, and then just a really deep thump. So that gets our attention. We slowed down for a minute and turned around to see what the fuck just happened. And it turned out Georgia had been talking to the teacher, and so she wasn't paying attention to where she was walking. And there was a pole with several signs on it, and one of the signs happened to be right in directly in front of her face. So she walked directly into the pole, into the sign. And everyone just turned around and was like, "Are you okay?" Trying not to laugh. And the teacher was obviously trying not to laugh, and the entire thing was hilarious. It was a really good trip. And very few of my regular group of friends was on that trip, but it was still a delight because I let myself have fun. That was an issue I had a lot as a kid is I felt like I couldn't have fun unless I was with a certain group of people, and even then I was overthinking everything constantly. And it's not very easy to do, and it's very scary if you end up going on a trip that doesn't have very many of your close friends. But it's still possible to enjoy yourself. Like you don't have to make lasting friendships every time you go out of state, or you don't have to be with your closest friends to have deep and meaningful memories. Like this poor girl. I mean, I'm sure she's smart in her own way, but she was socially inept in a very charming way. And she still is a bright memory in my past with all the bad shit and all the good shit. I remember her, even though I was never close to her, and she's a highlight. And I definitely, when we were up in DC, I enjoyed the museums. I enjoyed participating in a group that I wasn't particularly close with. It was okay. And I think that's an important thing to remember is that you are allowed to enjoy yourself. Give yourself permission to have fun. I think that might be the most important thing is you have to remember to give yourself permission to have fun, even if things aren't going quite how you want it to go. But like I said, I wanted today to be a little bit lighter. I God, I love Georgia. She was such a good kid. She was such a good sport. But y'all have a fantastic day. Stay hydrated. I've got some water myself. And I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye.